the competition is pitiful because the barrier of entry is so low. It's a lot of the unemployable who are doing gutter and they don't know how to sell. They don't know how to market. They just get jobs based on being the cheap guy.
Yep.
It's like taking candy from a baby. Rather than just training my technicians or sales reps or admin, like I want it to be a blueprint to open new locations. That's when I really started thinking about, you know what, maybe I need to stop being so greedy and holding all my secret sauce in, and maybe I should start selling it. Someday, my great grandkids are gonna be like, man, how did we get so wealthy? What happens if I get in a car accident and die tomorrow? Because I've put so many thousands of pieces of content out there, they'll get to know me. Humility wasn't even on my radar, and I had to do the things that other people weren't willing to do.
Good day, sir.
Howdy.
Welcome to FieldPulse.
Thank you so much. This is an awesome facility.
Thank you.
Holy smokes.
We're very happy to have you here. Cowboy Colin Dehaan in the office, coming to visit us here in Dallas. We're sitting with serial entrepreneur and founder of the Gutter Launch program, Colin Dehaan. Thanks for joining.
Yeah. Thank you so much for bringing me in. It's been awesome. The whole FieldPulse team is second to none. Like I had no idea how big of a team it was. And like when you think like tech and software and stuff, you think a bunch of nerds, and it's like, it's not that. It blew my mind. I was like, holy cow, I could hang out. Like we played Top Golf. Like I hung out with these people. They're super fun. So you guys' team is amazing.
I love to hear that. Yeah. You know, I'll tell you to keep talking, and I'd love to hear more of that, but we got an interview to conduct here.
Let's go. Let's roll.
So first and foremost, tell us about Gutter Launch. We have been partnered now for several months. We are the official FSM of the Gutter Launch program, but how did Gutter Launch come about? Yeah.
So Gutter Launch came about, I would say a couple different ways. One, I needed a way to train my staff faster. And so I started building out the learning management system, or LMS, as I'll probably say throughout this interview, but started building out the LMS and was sharing with one of my coaches. And he's like, dude, you need to sell this. And I was like, what are you talking about? He goes, yeah, you should sell it. Nah, I don't want to be a course guy or any of that stuff. And he's like, nah, you need to do this. And so then it started evolving into, okay, rather than just training my technicians or sales reps or admin, like I want it to be a blueprint to open new locations. So then it became, all right, how do I train essentially business owners? And then that's when I really started thinking about, you know what, maybe I need to stop being so greedy and like holding all my secret sauce in, and maybe I should start selling it. And so I went to a guy, or a fella caught wind of it, and he's like, hey, I heard you're doing this thing. Like, I want to see it. I've helped like Jimmy John's and a handful of other franchises like start up. Like, send me what you got. And it's like, all right, dude, I don't know. It's not all organized, but here's the Google Drive. He goes through it. He goes, Colin, this is probably like 20 times better than what Jimmy John's was when they started franchising people.
It's a great compliment.
And I was like, whoa. He goes, like, not many people will go this in depth and share all these secrets like you did. And I was like, okay. All right, so maybe I'm onto something. So he's tried to convince me to franchise, and I said, nah, I don't want to do that. But that's kind of how it evolved. It started off me wanting to open up more locations, or train employees, and then open up new locations, train new managers or operators. And then it spawned into what it is now, where we help people launch and grow and automate their existing gutter businesses.
That's awesome. Because you talked about launching new locations. So tell us about the business that you were thinking of expanding.
Yeah. So that's my roofing and gutter business.
Okay.
And formerly Superior Exteriors is transitioning into one-way exteriors now. We could not trademark and do all that with Superior. There's a million Superior companies, right? So we're one-way exteriors now. That did not come without a bunch of failure. I launched 3 locations at the end of 2023, from July till the end, and 2 of them failed. And they failed using my own systems.
Yeah.
And long story short, I put the wrong people in the wrong places, and I was not the proper leader over that. Right. Yep. So they were, one was 2,000 miles away and one was 1,100 miles away. And it was a lot. It was a lot to try and figure out and maintain. And I learned a ton through that. So that's another huge benefit to the Gutter Launch members is I'm really, really stupid / like, I just try a lot of things and I have no fear, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Yep.
And so they get to reap the benefit of that. So
it's awesome. Because yeah, I mean, ultimately, if you're either starting a new business, or whether you've been in the trades or not, whether you've ever owned a business or before, having somebody that can sort of paint that picture for you, that can lay out a blueprint to success is critical, especially if you're trying to be successful in any new area or new industry.
That's right.
So where did you sort of gain all that knowledge? I mean, obviously you've owned your own business, but like, were you successful in your first attempt at creating a home service company?
You know what? Luckily I was.
Great.
So yeah, I started and I was just a cowboy shooting from the hip, right? And just figuring things out as I went. But for the first 2 years, I was it was 100% dependent on me. And it wasn't until about 2 years in when I started discovering the likes of Josh Latimer and then Brandon Vaughns and the guys who like knew what systems were in businesses and like what that actually looked like. So then I started going down that route and I started paying for coaches and mentorships and all that fun stuff and learned that way. Right. I just learned. And one of the biggest compliments I think I've gotten from like Josh Latimer, who's now one of my good friends. I would call him one of my best friends.
Mm-hmm.
We don't end our conversations with "see ya." It's love you, man. Right. So, he was like, Colin, when you started actually becoming a businessman, you just started doing rather than thinking about doing. Like if I gave you a marching order, said you just got to do this. You were like, okay, boom. And it was done. And there was no thinking about it. There's no planning for it. You just got it done.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's what I need to just keep doing then.
Yeah.
And, you listen to any of the greats, Alex Hormozi's, Ed Milet's, whoever, Russell Brunson, none of them will say, I planned this thing perfectly and then I launched it. Yeah. Right. I just did it and it wasn't perfect other than Hormozi with his books. Those books are amazing, but
probably wrote them on the first draft.
That's right. Yeah. But everybody says, you just launch it and you do more doing than you do planning.
Yeah. So you built a few businesses, you started Gutter Launch. Gutter Launch was a concept for expanding your Superior Exteriors at the time. Correct. Now One Way Exteriors. How long did it take you to get the pieces together at Gutter Launch? Because it sounds like it was just you built this material, you sent it to this guy, he said he loved it. Next thing you know, Gutter Launch is live. But right. I don't think it was
it was about a year and a half long process. Okay. So I was about a year from build to first beta testers. I let some people in at really, really reduced costs. Like, hey, let's go through this. Just people that had trusted me over the years with their businesses and whatnot. And so let them in. Saw great success, had to make a lot of changes and clear things up and whatnot. And then did another beta round. So that was like 6 months of beta testing that we did. And then we released it to public. So about a year and a half.
What was the hardest part of bringing it all together?
I am 100% a visionary.
Yeah.
And I needed somebody who could make it. I will follow orders and I have the crazy ideas, but like putting it all together was not something like sitting on a computer and just like building a program on Kartra or Kajabi or any of those things, like not my strong suit. So I defined the integrator and somebody was like, hey, Colin, we're missing this. We need this thing. We need this thing. And by the grace of God, that was my little sister. So that was pretty cool. That all worked out. She had her own thing going for a while and got sick of it and just wanted to be behind the scenes, and timing just worked out really well.
Shout out to Shelby for her amazing work.
She's incredible. Couldn't do it without her.
So what can people expect from Gutter Launch? Whether, is this for new entrepreneurs? Is this for established home service entrepreneurs who have multiple businesses? Like, who's the ideal profile? And then what can they expect when they join the program?
Yeah. So who it's for is existing gutter businesses, or people who want to start a gutter business.
Yep.
But, what we've discovered with the launch name, a lot of existing businesses shy away from it because they think it's for new businesses or whatever. So we're actually rolling out a Gutter Kings program for the existing gutter businesses. So Gutter Launch is targeting that mid upper level white collar management people, people who have built for other people for 10, 15, 20 years, whatever. And they're just like, you know what? There's got to be more to life. Like, I'm busting my butt working 60 to 80 hours a week. I make $250,000 a year or whatever, but I got nothing to show for it. My wife, my kids, they get to live a good life, but I don't get to enjoy any of it with them. Like, there's got to be more to this. And that's our target audience. That is who Gutter Launch can serve the greatest. So
And when they join, they get access to an LMS, they get access to you, or,
Yes.
you know, what are sort of the founding steps of, you know, once they become a member?
Yeah, great question. So when they join, they get access to me 3 times a week. So we do 3 calls a week. They submit all their questions and I just boom, 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 boom through all the questions. Curtis, if you submitted a question and it wasn't super clear, I engage you on that call. Curtis, hey, can you explain this a little bit more? I don't quite understand what you're asking. Or, hey, I read this, I interpret it this way. Right. We get to have a dialogue. So access to me 3 times a week. Then we do a coaching call once a week. That's like group wide. So everybody in Gutter Launch, but then they also get to be in what we call facilitator groups. And how that is, it's kind of like an upstream to me because I can't give to everybody in the community at this point. It's too large of a community. So we have facilitators who have essentially like crushed it in our program, and they've built their automated business. Some of them aren't all the way automated, but they built the business. They're doing 1.5 plus mil a year.
Nice.
And they're rocking and rolling. So we get them in and they oversee a group of 4 to 6 individuals, and anything that's outside of the program, they just bring up to me, and that's what we create content on. And that's what we teach on. So that's how that kind of works. So they get access to that. Those calls, me 3 times a week, full learning management system for every position in their company, including themselves. They learn how to be the marketer and all that fun stuff. There's a lot of cool, I believe that business is 95% between the ears. And so we speak a lot to the entrepreneur themselves inside of our program and help them really break out of those limiting beliefs and become the leader that I believe God designed them to be.
Nice. So they get the sales and marketing. You cover operations, sales and marketing, the basics of establishing a business and all that covers. So
yeah, I mean, you don't need to know anything about seamless gutters.
Okay.
And you can get into Gutter Launch, and within really 4 days, you'll be pretty sufficient and like understand, okay, I could go out and sell a gutter job now.
Yeah.
And not look like a fool.
That sounds pretty appealing. I mean, every house has a gutter, every building has a gutter, is it specific to residential, like commercial, or do you think it's applicable to all?
Great question. Who we target in Gutter Launch is residential homes.
Okay.
There is, once you hit a certain level, we will unlock, this is how you chase after builders or apartment complexes or whatever. Because they're more after the dollar. And you got to be established before you can chase those ones on price a little bit.
Right. Makes sense.
Yep.
You've called the gutter industry the gold mine that nobody's paying attention to, or maybe I paraphrase that slightly, but what makes the gutter industry such an untapped market for entrepreneurs and for business owners? The
barrier of entry is really, really low.
Okay.
So it doesn't cost a ton of money to get into. It's not like excavation. It's not like, any of those big ticket items that you have to buy. There's not that in the gutter industry. 2, the average ticket it's not like roofing where, your average roof is in the $20,000 range, right? Depending on where you're at. But it's also not window cleaning where your average ticket's $300.
Yep.
Anybody can walk up, knock on someone's door and sell them window cleaning for $200, right? Oh, $200? Okay. That's nothing in today's world. It's a lot harder to show up and offer them a $20,000 roof. Gutter's in that sweet spot where our average ticket is $3,400.
Okay.
So it's right in that sweet spot where you can really dip your toes in becoming a salesperson and learn those skill sets without having to really be a hardcore closer like you do with the roofing or the HVAC or, high ticket plumbing, any of that stuff.
Yep.
So that's really cool. But also the competition is pitiful. I mean, if I'm just being honest with you, who does gutter right now are the unemployable. Because the barrier of entry is so low, it's a lot of the unemployable who are doing gutter and they don't know how to sell. They don't know how to market. And so they just get jobs based on being the cheap guy.
Yep.
And it's like taking candy from a baby. Honestly, if you can show up confident, professional, you can be double, triple their price and people will trust you a lot more than them.
Yep. And does it cover installation, servicing, cleaning? Is there any aspect of the gutter business that you don't touch? Or that you don't coach on?
Yeah. Well, we don't do coaching,
right?
But no, that's all right. It's coaching is a buzzword, right? But it also is a legal liability when you start coaching. So
unpack that for me. What does that mean?
Well, when you are a coach, if I advise you to do something, I actually open myself up to liability if you go and do that and it costs you $100,000, you could countersue me in the right realm. I've seen it happen multiple times, and
Wow.
we're seeing this shift a lot in the info product world, the online world. There's not a lot of coaching going on anymore. It's becoming facilitating, and so that's why we call it.
What's the word to use then, not to get sued?
Exactly right. Yep. So that's what we do, and basically, when I say, "Hey, Curtis, you join Gutter Launch, you get a facilitator." Facilitator is like a mentor to you, but we don't want them to carry that liability. I want to carry that liability.
Right.
So rather than them telling you what to do, if it's not directly in the program, they're going to come to me and I'm going to make content on it. I'll cover it in the next meeting, whatever that looks like.
Right. So you're creating a curriculum that guides the facilitators.
Exactly. Yep.
With, of course, their own knowledge that they've gained going through the program and having run their own business to
exactly
provide a little, I guess, color commentary or context around these decisions.
You got it. Yes.
Yep. Community is obviously a huge part of these things. You know, having other entrepreneurs that you can bounce ideas off of, that you can share your story with and the struggles that you're going through. How much has that impacted your journey as an entrepreneur? And how much do you see that in the Gutter Launch community as being a major factor to the success of your customers or the members?
Community engagement is the number one success driver for people inside of our community. So if they are active in the community, if they are posting, if they're vulnerable, they will be the most successful people, hands down. I've been a part of multiple communities in my life, right? I talked about different coaching programs and whatnot that I've been in. And a revolving thing that I discovered was if I felt like they cared about me, I participated a lot. And so did everybody else. But when I became a number, I was really disengaged and off put by it. And then I also watched everybody else do that and they'd start dropping like flies. Another thing that was really off putting to me is if I was in a group of say 5 other businesses and there was 1 or 2 underperformers in that group, and then me and 2 other people were crushing life, that would really drag down the calls and that would drag down the energy. That would drag down actually our performance, because we would look at them and be like, oh, we're crushing. And we wouldn't keep elevating ourselves. So it became a little bit of an issue. And what me and one other guy ended up doing was like, okay, we're going to do these calls. But then after we get off the calls, you and I are going to call each other up and we're going to give each other the business and we're going to keep fighting to the death, right? And see who can outperform the other one this week.
Yeah.
And so that's what we started doing. So moral of that story is inside of our facilitating groups, I'm kind of a little bit of like a jerk about it. So if you're sucking, I'm going to pull you out of that group and put you in a group of other people that are sucking and keep this group a high performing group. Or say 4 out of the 5 are underperforming. We got 1 stud. Like, hey, you know what, Curtis, you're the stud. We're going to move you into this group with other studs to push you along a little bit better.
Yeah.
And I just think that builds a much stronger community, but it also, this sounds a little harsh, but it weeds out the weak. And for me, this community, I've been a part of so many of them and seen the shifts at certain sizes and whatnot. And it's because it becomes a sales gimmick, right? It's how many more people can we get? How many people can we get? And I don't ever want my product to become that. And so we've actually just shifted here recently where our communities, we're done selling people into it. Either you want in or you don't. And we're actually going to qualify you. So we have different tiers of our product, right? For Gutter Kings, you have to have at least 3 employees and either not be installing or not be selling for your own business. You've got to have one area of your business that is working without you, right? And you have to be hitting $650,000 a year in total sales.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not qualified, right? Gutter Launch, a little bit different, right? But we're actually turning people away. You know, if it's a blue collar dude who's been a welder for, 10 years and like, I just want to be my own boss, blah, blah, blah. We're going to say, no, you're not our target avatar. That's not who we're after. You're going to get in, you'll do a couple gutter jobs. You'll be like, I just made $3,000 in a week and I only worked for 10 hours. Like, I'm okay with this. And that is not what we're after. Gutter Launch is built to help you build an automated business. And you're not going to do that if your goal is to just make a few $1,000s a week. Right. All right. So no, that's not for you. Sorry.
Yeah.
And we have some downsells for them. And, inside of those downsells, we're of course always preaching about automation and trying to get people to understand the importance of it.
How does an FSM like FieldPulse fit into Gutter Launch and the whole, systems that you're in facilitating or promoting and getting your members to adhere to?
That's right. It's one of the most pivotal parts. So many people have a CRM or an FSM that they're so underutilizing. And the reason they underutilize, if we're being frank, is the FSM or the CRM doesn't have the built-in support to really help them set it up. And I think having used, I don't know, a half dozen CRMs in my life, and I'm not a small business, but I've paid $10,000 to have them set it up, and it never worked right. And I'm like, what in the world is going on? And it wasn't until I built Gutter Launch and then got introduced to FieldPulse that I felt like, holy cow, this is a CRM or an FSM that really wants to work for me. Not just like, well, it works for bigger businesses than you. Figure it out, kid.
Yeah.
Right. FieldPulse came alongside and was like, oh no, for your clients, we're going to onboard them completely. We're going to make sure theirs looks just like yours. Here's all the automations. Here's the estimate templates. Here's this. Like, we're going to make this as smooth and simple as we possibly can for your people.
Yep.
And that's a big deal, especially for an entrepreneur like myself, which I think most entrepreneurs lean more towards the visionary side than the integrator side.
Yep.
And when you lean more towards that visionary side, you're not going to sit down and figure out a CRM for 10 hours a week. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
You're going to be like, I could go make money. I could go hang gutter. I could do whatever and be more productive than this.
Yeah.
So the fact that FieldPulse came alongside us and said, hey, we're going to do this for you was just an absolute game changer. So now my team or my community is able to just focus on running their business rather than, crap, I got to sit down. I got to take Monday all day and try and figure out this FieldPulse thing. Like, they don't need to do that anymore. And so I'm just super grateful for that. That was one of the biggest hurdles that we had in our early days pre-FieldPulse was getting them to actually use the CRM the way that they were supposed to and set up the automations so that when they show up, the customer's already expecting them to be a premium price.
Yep.
And it's a huge part of the whole deal. Getting the automations, getting the payment link options. So when I show up, I know, oh crap, this customer's already pre-approved for $10,000. It's very rare to see a $10,000 gutter job, so I show up, it's $4,000. Like, hey, Mrs. Smith, I know that you already got approved for up to $10,000. We can get you this for only $98 a month. And she's like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. I was planning on spending $250, and it's a game changer, right? Not many people operate with $5,000 to $10,000 cash anymore.
Yeah.
They just live paycheck to paycheck.
Yep.
So being able to fit in a monthly budget is huge. So the background checks, you guys, I immediately was like, hey, we use Ask the Seal. And you're like, okay, let's figure it out.
Yep.
So that was incredible. And it's just like, it's so fast. So partnering with FieldPulse has been probably one of the smoothest things that we've done as far as partnerships go, but B, like, I want to call it needle moving for our customers because it's that pivotal that they're no longer guessing on their estimates or trying to remember their estimates or any of that stuff or handwriting pieces of paper with the pricing or any of that crap on it.
Yep.
They have all their automations and we're teaching them to be premium pricing. So you got to have all those automations lined up and appointment reminders and this and that. And like, it all matters. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
So it's been a game changer for everybody who's taken advantage of it.
I'm glad to hear it. I mean, when we first started talking about our partnership and we were sort of exploring, is this a good fit? It sort of felt like it was a great complementary solution because FieldPulse's flexibility and customization of the platform combined with your desire to have a business in a box, so to speak.
Yes.
So that customers can sign on to FieldPulse. They have the system set up for them in a way that is structured, but still allows them some flexibility in terms of how they, the minutia of their day-to-day and sort of how they manage things. So the estimates, the invoices, the billing is all there and ready and taken care of and set up, but they still have that opportunity to make it work for themselves and their team based on that approach.
Of course. And of course, huge bonuses with savings on credit card processing and all that fun stuff too, right?
Yep.
Like FieldPulse came in and amazing with all that.
Yep. So we will continue to add new partners to the Gutter Launch community and the Gutter Launch partnership. You mentioned Ask the Seal. We offer, USA Partner Network and all the benefits that comes with that.
That's right.
There's tons of things like that. When a customer is starting their business, what is the most fundamental thing that you think they need to have either in themselves or in their market?
Yeah. I'm going to say the most fundamental thing they need to have is inside of themselves. And it's kind of a buzzword right now. I don't know if it's really a buzzword, but the word grit, like they just got to have that grit and that determination of like, I'm going to do this. Because what's separated the winners from the losers inside of our program is the people who just keep doing versus the people who tried it once and it didn't work.
Yeah.
And they get knocked down and they stayed down. You think about the Rocky scene, right? It's not about how many times you get knocked down, but how many times you get back up, or however that phrase goes, right? Yeah. And that's it. I mean, that is the epitome of entrepreneurship. We've all seen the roller coaster graphs and all that stuff, or like the day in the life of an entrepreneur, where they're up and they're down and they're up and they're down and all that fun stuff, right? Yeah. Like it's real. It's real. And I hate that it's real. I tried to no, that's not real. That's not my real.
I can be just like this the whole way through.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's the truth, right? At the end of the day, it's the truth. It takes one customer to call and be pissy and it can, boom, now you're down. And then the next one, boom, hey, yeah, I want to do that $10,000 job. And you're like, woohoo, I rock. And it's just that. So being able to have that grit and just, I look back at myself when I first started my business. I had myself, my wife, and a 6-month-old baby. My wife was a stay-at-home mom, and we had owned our home for 1 year, and that was it. I had like $800 in my savings account, and this was 2016, right? It's not like this was in 1995 when $800 was a decent amount of money or something, right? Like, no, this was in 2016, and I was like, I got to make this work. Otherwise, they don't eat. All right. And we don't have a house. Yeah. Right. Like I got to call my in-laws and can we move in with you? Like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So I just had I had to make it work, and I had to do the things that other people weren't willing to do, which looked like phone calls, which looked like Facebook messages, which looked like whatever it is, right? Yeah. Knocking on doors, giving out flyers. Like I had nothing to lose. So I just had to go out and do it. So like humility wasn't even on my radar. Like I didn't care what people thought of me. Like I knock on the door and, hey, I'm a new business. Oh, you're my friend's parents. Like, oh, okay. Like this is weird, but like I had no humility. I didn't have to be humiliated at all. And it was just like, I have to make this work.
Yep.
And I think people are missing that in today's world. It's like, if it's hard, I don't want to do it, Yep. And that's what really separates the people who succeed from the people who don't, is your why has to be much greater than making money. Your why just has to be like, for me, it was my wife and my 6-month-old need to eat.
Yep.
And I want to keep this home for them.
Yep.
So it's on me. I think that's how men are wired. We're wired to provide. Mm-hmm. And I think nowadays women are wired to be independent sometimes, right? I love my wife. She is not wired that way. She is very traditional and like makes our dinner and cleans the house and does that stuff. But, regardless, we got to get out there and do it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you're male or female. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, you got to get out there and just make stuff happen. So your why has to be bigger than I got to make money, right? It's got to be looking at your 6-month-old kid and being like, crap, I got to do this for you. I got to break free of these generational curses of going to college, getting a degree so that I can get a good job that has a retirement plan and health insurance. And so I can work 9 to 5 for 45 years and then retire. Like, no, like I got to break this for you. I'm going to be the one in my family. Yeah. And now, we already talked about Shelby. Like I got to bring her along, and like, that's really freaking cool.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah, I think a family business is one of the coolest things that you can offer a child or a family is, that ability to see a parent build something with their own hands and ideally be successful.
That's right.
So we talked about the drive of an entrepreneur. If somebody's interested in starting a gutter business, is there anything that is there anything market condition wise that they should be aware of in their area that would preclude them potentially from being successful?
I would say like if you live in Antarctica, maybe, but that's about it.
Good one.
No, we've got people right here in Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas, which is like the mecca of cheap, like you can find gutters for nothing, selling at premium pricing. Like our model works there. And then myself, I'm in the sticks in Northern Michigan and it works there. I mean, I live in a county of 35,000 people with an average income of $40,000. Like we make it work, and it's a fully automated business there. I've got people in the, my second location is in the Blue Ridge Mountains in North Carolina, right? County of 55,000 people. So it works in really, really small remote areas, and it works in really large areas too.
Awesome.
When you're looking at launching in a large metro area like a DFW or Houston, expect to spend a lot more money on marketing.
Okay.
Because there's just a lot more competition and you got to pay a little bit more to rank more.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
So that would be my only real word to the wise, I guess, is that, or be prepared to put a lot more of your time in to get the name out there.
Yeah. Scaling becomes a little bit harder.
Yeah. Well, I don't know that scale. Like there's pros to it because you think about a DFW, you can, I mean, I walk out into the FieldPulse office. I'm like, oh my gosh, I could turn half these people into awesome people in my gutter company or whatever else. Right. You have a lot more people to choose from that are qualified to help you scale your business.
Okay.
However, getting like marketing is a little bit trickier. Getting your name to be the name for gutter in that area will be a little bit trickier.
Gotcha. So, okay. I mean, in your evolution as an entrepreneur yourself, you've worn a ton of hats, you've built and succeeded and failed a ton of times. And now you've sort of added content creator to that mix.
Yeah.
How much of that, is now your focus, and is that something you enjoy, and where can we, the audience find your great content?
Yeah. So all my content on all the platforms is Cowboy Colin. There might be an underscore on some of them. Complete transparency. I've never posted on my own TikTok or Instagram or my own YouTube. So my social media manager does all of that, but you just Google or look up Cowboy Colin on any of those platforms and you should be able to find me. Facebook is the only one where I'm just normal Colin Dehaan. So
the real.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's how they find me. But yeah, content is becoming my main gig at this point. Gutter launch still requires a bit of me, or the whole gutter launch is under Home Service Giants, and that's a whole thing, but we don't need to get into that on this, but that business still requires a decent amount of me. My home service businesses require zero of me. My barn business, my roofing, gutter, my excavation, that doesn't require me other than mentoring my owners or my partners. Nice. But content is my main thing. And it really, like, initially content was there. It was a thing I was doing because I wanted to get the gutter launch name out there, right? And I wanted to pump the stuff, and it didn't really have anything to do with me. And then I was listening to Myron Golden, who is one of my favorite people in the world. I've been blessed enough to meet him a handful of times, and through Josh Latimer. And I was listening to him, and he was like, someday my great grandkids are gonna be like, man, how did we get so wealthy? And like, where did this come from?
Yeah.
And man, I wish I would have gotten to know my great grandpa Myron. And because, and this is him speaking, because I've put so many thousands of pieces of content out there, they'll get to know me. And that is a legacy. And I was like, oh my gosh, it just like, and I was like, this is amazing. What happens if I get in a car accident and die tomorrow? My grandkids will never know me. Well, now they will, right? And they get to see who I am and what I stand for and all that fun stuff because we're putting out all this content. So it's got like a dual meaning for me. One, of course, it means business, right? But two, you guys will start to see here, we're starting the transition right now. All of my personal social media is all geared towards leadership and developing leaders. I believe that everybody is designed to be a leader. And so my why is to help all people become a great leader by crushing limiting beliefs placed on them by themselves, their friends, their family, their bosses, their pastors, and any other doubter. So
society. Yeah.
That's it, right? Yeah. We've got so many limiting beliefs placed on us every day that we don't even recognize until we recognize them. And I just believe that everybody is destined to be a leader. And so that's what my social media is going to be going towards, is all leadership and leadership development. And I'm a huge John Maxwell buff, and Ed Milet, like, love those guys. So that's what that's transitioning to. And it's going to be a lot of just like who I am and what I stand for.
Very cool.
And that's because I want to leave a legacy, and I don't want my third generation to squander the wealth like every other third generation does. So yeah.
You hear that, grandkids? Future now. Grandpa Colin says, "Don't screw this up."
That's right. Yep.
So what else is next? I mean, Cowboy Colin and all of your great socials, you're going to be focusing on leadership. What's next for the Gutter Launch program and your next big projects?
Yeah. So we just rolled out last week Home Service Giants. And so Home Service Giants evolved from Gutter Launch. So within Gutter Launch, we had over 2,000 applicants in the last year. We've only been public for a year with this. I say public, we're not publicly traded. I own it.
Yeah.
But we've only been like out in the world for a year. We've had over 2,000 applicants for Gutter Launch, and we've only done like 300 total sales calls and been up to just under 90 members in the community. Okay. So what we've discovered, people that said no, and then people that we disqualified, were all after sales, marketing, or hiring. Those three things. So those were the three problems that everybody else had. And if they say sales was their problem, they're like, nope, I'm great at marketing. I'm great at sales. Or I'm sorry, I'm great at marketing. I'm great at hiring. I'm great at operations. I don't need any of that stuff. I just need to know how to sell better. And it's like, we don't really have a product for you. So we created Home Service Giants. That is marketing, sales, and hiring. And that's it. And it's significantly less expensive than Gutter Launch or Gutter Kings, and teaches them everything that is sales, marketing, hiring. And of course, now we have our partnership with FieldPulse, where they get a done for you CRM as well. So Home Service Giants is more than just gutters, though. And that we're targeting everybody in the home service industry. As I mentioned earlier, I've got a handful of my own businesses. I've mentored a ton of people in a bunch of other different industries, and I'm not done acquiring and partnering and all that fun stuff in other businesses. So Home Service Giants is for everybody looking to do that. Inside of Home Service Giants, it's a full LMS for your sales reps. So we will fully train your sales reps for you on everything except for like your product details, because we just can't train them on all 700 home service products, right? Yeah, and that'd be pretty ridiculous inside of a program. So that's that. That's what Home Service Giants is. And then Gutter Kings is targeting existing gutter businesses who we already went over all that, but at least 3 employees, off the truck or off of sales, and $650K a year in total revenue, and helping them really automate. They have to have that fire to automate versus just be the king of gutter. All right. So
that's great. I mean, where can they find us? Gutterkings.com. What are your sites?
Yep. It's actually all going to be under homeservicegiants.com.
Okay, perfect.
So homeservicegiants.com will be the main umbrella, and you can go navigate from there. So homeservicegiants.com, or find us on social medias. Home Service Giants has all their own social medias now, as do I. Yeah, Cowboy Colin or Colin Dehaan.
Perfect. Well, we appreciate you coming out to Dallas. Absolutely. We definitely appreciate the partnership. We look forward to continued collaborations with Gutter Launch, with Home Service Giants, and all the great companies you're putting together. And we thank you for sharing your great insights with our audience.
Thank you, Curtis. Appreciate you, man.
Have a good one.